I'm Eric Wolf, and my experience in business peer groups has changed my life, especially my membership in Vistage, one of the world's largest CEO advisory groups. I'm an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a Vistage speaker on the power of marketing. This podcast is dedicated to the people who make those experiences possible, the peer group chairs. Every episode, I interview a Vistage chair who has dedicated their time to helping entrepreneurs like me succeed. My guest today is Anna Quinn, and Anna has, we interviewed her husband, Chris, I guess it was a few months ago, and Chris said, you know who you need to interview for this thing? And I said, that's a great idea, because now she can tell us the real story.
Oh no.
So we're gonna be looking for dirt. We're gonna be looking for the skeletons.
Oh
But
yeah.
but Anna runs a wide variety of Vistage groups in Raleigh, North Carolina. Run me through all of the groups.
So, we're fortunate. We have one of every kind of group or two of every kind of group. So we have three CE groups. We have one key group, one small business group, one TA group of which Chris leads and I'm a member. I've got two AL groups and we currently have two Vistage Inside groups. So we cover each and every group offered by Vistage.
And that's you guys very much have sort of like the collect all five kind of thing going on, which is really remarkable because a lot of chairs don't don't collect groups like that. And I imagine that that's both a really cool thing for you guys, but I imagine it's also sort of a challenge, right? I mean, there's a lot of gear shifting, I guess.
There is, but I think what helps is the way Chris is wired and the way I'm wired is different. So the difference is actually we leverage the differences, if that makes any sense. Like his DNA is one way, my DNA is another way. So we instead of, going at each other or having a lot of conflict, we know what the differences are and we leverage the differences.
Which I'm sure is a lot of fun for the members to watch.
Yeah. They have fun with it. Yep.
Chris leaves the toilet seat up, and then it's World War III at the CE group. I don't know, um, but it feels like because I've talked to Chris and now I'm talking to you. I mean, there are a lot of husbands and wives out there that while they do just very well as a couple, would not make good business partners. What do you chalk up your guys being able to do? What's in your personalities that makes that part work?
I think, Chris he's the visionary, right? He's the big picture, strategic, visionary. He's got, great ideas. We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for him. I think what I bring to the table is, okay, how are we going to make it happen? Execution and kind of challenging him on some of his thoughts. And it's like, you're thinking what? And reflecting and then putting all the wheels in motion, the processes in motion and, thinking of the details. So I think that's where we complement each other. I mean, do we have tension sometimes? Of course, because I go, what? He has these ideas and it's like, okay, time for the oxygen mask. I can't handle this one. But then I need to reflect. And once I think about it, it's like, okay, it makes sense. So let me, leave, let me put the plan in place.
Yeah, and then
Um,
you can come back and say, okay, this is why the idea is terrible, Chris. Move on. So
Most of the
so
time he's got great ideas.
so what is I would love to hear the about the journey that led you to be a Vistage chair. What was your career before this?
Wow, interesting. I mean, I've always worked. I think I started working when I was 12. Started babysitting and started doing odd jobs and had summer jobs at the mall and did all kinds of stuff throughout college. I always worked. So my life is always working and it's always finding something that you enjoy so it doesn't sound like work. But after school, after college, undergrad and grad, It's interesting, very diverse. I actually started after college at an asphalt manufacturing plant in South Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very interesting. From there, believe it or not, I
I
went to
bet that
Burger
smelled
King.
terrific.
Oh man, I tell you. But it was interesting. I was there for 3 years, and obviously learned something I never knew anything about, and working with people because you have the paving crews and all kinds of amazing stuff. And from there, I went to Burger King Corporation. So I went from asphalt to burgers.
Wow.
So I worked at corporate headquarters in South Florida and really worked more on the PR side. So, talk about a shift. And I was there for a couple years, and it was fun. I got to see Burger King's products before they were released to the market because I would go to the test kitchen. Hey, who wants to test the new products? Like me. So it was fun. So different world. And from there, I went to healthcare. So
So basically, you spend a few years causing the health problems, and then you said, now it's time to fix them.
exactly. So I went to a well-known company called Baxter.
Okay.
Um, and they had a manufacturing site in South Florida again. So I entered the world of manufacturing and planning the production of their reagents. So it was a diagnostic facility that created the HCG test, the CKMB test, all kinds of stuff that, you go into the doctor and they run blood work. Well, it was that. So it was fascinating. I was there for 5 years and traveled to Puerto Rico because I was the only one on site that spoke Spanish. And we had, for tax reasons, there was a plant in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So I went down there a lot. And actually, it's at Baxter where I met Chris.
Is that right?
Yep, that's where we met. And he came in probably my year 3 at Baxter. Now he had been working at Baxter for years, but he was based in Chicago. And ironically, I had a friend of mine who worked in what was under Chris's new domain when he came in, and she calls me up and she goes, "I just met the guy you're going to marry." And it's like, I don't date guys at work. I'll come in and I'll work 10-hour days, but I'm not dating anybody at work. And ironically, 6 months later, I met Chris at a meeting, and my first thought was, he came up to me and goes, "Hi, I'm Chris Quinn," and it's like the guy I'm supposed to marry. And sure enough, we went out, and the rest is history.
Was the honeymoon in Puerto Rico?
No, 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 no. We actually honeymooned in Aruba and then Ireland.
Oh, okay.
So we uncovered his roots.
There you go. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So it was neat. It was really neat. But I
And
stayed in healthcare because from Baxter, I then went to Pfizer because we got married, moved to Connecticut, and I got a job in New York City at Pfizer headquarters. So stayed in the supply chain kind of arena. That's what I did at Baxter and Pfizer. And then stayed in supply chain, but then I switched over to Clairol, shampoo and hair color. Go figure. So really diverse, very, very diverse background. And then started I was outplaced actually when Clairol was bought out by Procter and Gamble. I was the first and only remote employee.
oh,
I,
really?
ki- I kind of made the pitch. Hey, can I work from home? I did all this research and I reconfigured my job. I started having kids, so I wanted to stay home, but I still wanted to work. And, one of those confused times, what's the right decision? And
Around what year would this have been?
this was, let's see, 1987.
And that is a remarkable and unconventional time for somebody to pitch, hey, why don't you just let me work at home?
Yeah. Well, I think I was very, very fortunate in that I had a new boss who was very open to the concept. I came back from maternity leave, and I just met him before I left for maternity leave. Really nice guy, smart guy, down to earth, very humble. And he goes, "Take all the time you want for maternity leave." And, Clairol gave me, I think, like 4 or 5 months off. And I was like, I was thinking a lot. It's like, well, I'd like to come back part time. And he goes, "Well, what would that look like?" I go, "I don't know. I didn't even know you were open to it." So I went to Barnes and Noble, and they were starting to write books on telecommuting. At least in Connecticut, they were. I don't know about South Florida, but so I bought like every book that I could get. I read everything. And he goes, "Well, why don't you pitch it to me?" see what that would look like. And it's like, well, I can do this. I can't do this anymore. I could do this. And at the same time I was writing all this, Chris took a job in Maine.
Oh, wow.
It's like, okay, this is really going to push the telecommuting. So I sat down, I talked to my boss, and he goes, well, you know what? Let's try it. Let's try it for 2 or 3 months. If it works, the computer that I'm going to send you and all that stuff, you can keep it. And if it doesn't work, you can pack it up and ship it back. And it's like, wow, this is a gift. And, I proposed like 30 hours a week or something. And he goes, you work in whatever hours you want, whatever days you want, just get the work done. It's like, okay. So obviously I became more loyal, because they were actually giving me this huge gift.
Very
Um,
progressive in
very,
1987.
very much so. This was not 87. I'm sorry. This was 97.
97.
This
Even
was
so,
97. Yeah.
97 is still a ways before when
Yep.
work at home was a
Yep.
common thing. I mean, that
Yep.
was the idea that you could work at home at some companies was laughable.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I was very fortunate. And I think that spanned, I don't know how many years, but we were in Maine and we decided to move back to Miami. And I contacted Clairol and I said, hey, we're moving to Florida for X, Y, and Z reasons. Can I still telecommute? And they said, well, it doesn't matter if you're telecommuting in the freezing winters of Maine or in the, in the heat of
Right.
Miami. It's the same. And it's like, well, I'm very grateful for that. So I did that for several years, but eventually Clairol was, Procter and Gamble came in and they had a no remote policy.
Oh,
Um,
gotcha.
yeah, so I was, downsized, whatever you want to call it. There was a big, when that happened, there were a lot of people that were let go. I kind of suspected I would because I was literally the only virtual employee at Clairol. And I went through outplacement, didn't know what that was. Most people don't know what that is until you go through it. And 3 months into that program, I said, this is a cool job. So then they hired me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because shortly after I started working there, 9/11 happened.
Oh boy. That
Yeah. Yeah. So as you know, during that time, a lot of companies just, I mean, that was a devastating time. And a lot of companies were laying off. So um, I went from part-time there to full-time, helping people. And that's really where my coaching career started.
that's a remarkable time to have been starting that kind of career
Yeah.
because I mean, so not only obviously there was a lot of things that happened economically post 9/11, but there was a level of emotionality as well in the country at that time that I think is really hard to describe
Yep.
for folks that weren't here for that.
Yep.
And it was uh, it was a time where people were really evaluating. I would say, hey, look, it kind of like how COVID did in like a bigger way. I mean, this was a much more compressed event, being that it was a really wild week or two versus a year and a half of COVID.
Yeah.
But the same way that people were like reevaluating, like, oh my God, what do I want to do with myself? People were doing that around 9/11. Like it kind of changed people's brains.
Yeah. I recall till this day where I was at this company when the first and the second plane hit the building. I mean, there was somebody on their phone. They said, "Hey, a plane just hit one of the towers," and I was at this. It's called Lehigh Harrison. It's a global company, um, and I was giving a workshop for people that had just been outplaced. And the whole purpose there was let's get you back on your feet. Let's teach you how to look for a job. Let's do your resume. What are some networking? Everything, and plus the emotional side of getting back up and picking yourself up to find a job. It's a full-time job to find a job. And I'll never forget somebody said, "Hey, a plane just crashed into the tower." And I went, "What?" And people in the room were like, "What?" And we kept going. And then someone said, "Another plane hit the hit the tower. And, I said, hey, let's break. Let's
Right.
go out and see what's going on. And actually, Lee Hecht Harrison, our parent company had offices in the towers.
Oh, wow.
So I was a, they have offices all over the United States. But our offices were in the towers. And that just started it. And then, with that, there were people that were working in New York or their parent company was in New York. And I can't tell you how many folks that had been outplaced were actually in New York City the day of 9/11.
Oh my
And
God.
they shared their stories. It was tough. It was tough. And then the ripple effect
Oh my,
of what that
that's,
caused. Yeah.
I'm sure that that also had an impact on how you approached your job and your work
Yeah.
after that. That because that's a hell of a way to get initiated into
Yeah.
a new stage of your career.
Yeah. Yeah. Till this day, I help people pro bono, don't charge them. When they lose their job, everything that I learned at Lee Hecht Harrison, I said, okay, come on, let's start. Let's go. This is the first thing you got to do. This is the second thing you got to do. Let's change your resume up, so that there's impact and whatnot. And I mean, right now I'm helping 12 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're coaching and helping folks who are in outplacement situations and where how does that take you into being a Vistage Chair?
You're serving people.
Yeah,
When you're helping people, you're serving them. You're finding out, well, what's the need? How can I help you? Tell me more about you so that you meet them where they are. Um, what demons do you have in your head? What head trash do you have that's getting in the way? Whether you're looking for a job or whether you're leading a team back at work, we all have head trash, right? We all have those things that block us. So how do we address that and how do we unblock that so that you can strive to get to your biggest potential?
do you know Todd Musselman, the
No,
Vistage
but I think he's
speaker?
giving a session soon.
Yeah, he's a terrific speaker, and he talks about people, literally, dragging around garbage bags full of crap, and what that does to you, and what that and how important it is to learn to let go of it.
Yeah. It's hard. It gets in your way, and at whatever level. If you're a CEO, it gets in your way. If you're a key group member, it gets in your way. If you're an advancing leader, emerging leader, it doesn't matter what level. It gets in your way. I mean, hey, I've had head trash. I still have head trash,
Sure.
right? We all have it. So how can you help them overcome that? And I think I saw so much during 9/11. I saw a lot of people who were here on visas,
Oh
in
wow.
South Florida, and it was coming to an end, and they had to find a job, and some
Uh,
people I had to say goodbye to. I mean, they
That that's
just,
a that's an entirely different kind of fear too.
yep,
So
yeah.
who was first to Vistage? Was it you or Chris, or did you do it together?
I know it was Chris. Chris has been doing it, I think, for about 7 years now. I think I'm in year 4.
So was it did did he say, I think you should do this with me, or was it your idea?
No, it was his idea. It's totally his idea. He had launched a CE group, and he goes, "You should be doing this," and it's like, "No, no, you do that, you do that."
Was there
And
kicking
then
and
he
screaming? Or
and
what did that what was that like for you?
I just I don't know, maybe I had head trash at the time. And he goes, "Hey, listen, I'm launching an emerging leader group. Why don't you just come? You know, let's just attend with me and whatever." And it's like, okay. And I went and I said, "You know what? This is fascinating. This is fascinating." I said, "Okay, I see why you were thinking that." So he asked. He goes, "Hey, can Anna go to Chair Academy?" And we talked to Tim Gray, he's since retired, but he was there at the time, and he goes, "Well, let's talk about that." And we talked about it, and I interviewed with several people at headquarters, and they said, "Yep, send her to Chair Academy." And then one thing led to another, and here we are.
What's the biggest lesson that being a chair has taught you?
Wow. A lot of lessons. I wish I had, a peer group back in the day. Um, it's I don't the biggest lesson. Wow. There's so many amazing people out there. You can learn from so many people. So many people take chances. It's okay to fail. Learn from failure. Learn to take risks.
Bef-
Uh,
and before you went to that one group with, you sat in, had you ever had a peer group experience before that?
Never, never, never. That's why, when I'm leading groups now, I say you're so fortunate to have your own board. I refer to it as a board. This is your board.
Right.
And I go, you're so fortunate. If it was in existence back in the day, I didn't know about it. I wish I had, because the different perspectives, we all have blind spots, right? And we all think a certain way, and sometimes we're not thinking about the other side, and whether it's because of our DNA and we're wired this way and we don't naturally think that way or whatnot. But to see at all levels across all groups, during issue processing, um, to see how people come together and come up with ideas out of left field. It's like, whoa, where'd that one come from? That's a really neat perspective. And to see the vulnerability.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
People just say, hey, I failed. And it's like, well, or I just don't understand that. Walk me through that. You meet some incredible people, incredible, and from all walks of life, all types of jobs, all types of industries. And people think, I can't learn from them. My industry is so different. And then they give a testimonial. It's like, I've learned so much from you and never thought I could, because yours is a different world. But you know what? Some of the challenges are the same.
And that's one thing that surprises me about business owners is that and CEOs is that we come in with these ideas about how different everything is, and I've been working with folks like that in marketing for, almost 20 years, and since I've been on my own, and and I have to sit there sometimes and convince people that, no, your business and the things that you're talking about are actually not that different than the pains that these people have. There's there's this thing that happens to everybody who's in that position where there's a certain amount of loneliness involved
Yeah.
in being an entrepreneur and being an executive leader in being a business owner. But it's funny to me how much of that loneliness is actually, some of it is natural, but then there's some that's self-inflicted.
Yep. Yeah. Very much so. You're afraid to speak up, or you're afraid to share, or you're afraid to, admit to something. And you know what? I always tell people, I go, just share it, because highly likely somebody next to you or across from you is feeling the same way. And there's no judgment in this room. So let's share it. Or sometimes I'll share something, just to break the ice. And it's like, hey, this is what I thought, 20 years ago. And boy, was I wrong. But that's okay. That's why we're here. We're here to learn.
What was your best moment as a chair?
Oh, wow. Uh, it's just to see people connect. It's to see people share, to see people support each other in the room, because it's really about the group. It's about who's in the group. The work is done by them. They don't see it that way, but they're the ones that are really making it happen. And different people in the group setting the example. Well, if hey, they spoke up, so someone will say, well, since you said that, here's my perspective. So I think they support each other. And when they connect like that, and when they're open like that, that's when the magic happens, I think.
And in addition to chairing or co-chairing a wide variety of Vistage groups, you also have a coaching practice, and you do predictive index
Yep.
and line of sight. Tell me about how that works into your
Yep.
your whole sphere.
Yeah, we have a book of business where we have PI clients throughout the United States. Our two sons actually are in our business too. We hired them 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's been really neat. I love the predictive index. I think it's people data and it sheds so much light. And when I took the assessment, oof, back in 2018, it's like, oh my gosh, it nailed me. It's so precise. It's kind of creepy accurate. And I saw Chris's and I went, whoo. So Chris and I got certified in Massachusetts, and then we started, recruiting clients and whatnot. And there, it's the same thing. You're helping companies through their people data uncover talent and the dynamics and whatnot, so that they can achieve success. What are the things that you need to be looking at? How to better communicate, because now you understand people based on their data.
What's your predictive index? What's your
Profile.
yeah?
I'm an altruist.
Okay,
Are
that
you familiar
fits.
with PI?
Yes, I am.
What's your
Um,
profile?
yes.
I don't know.
Oh,
I
Maverick.
like I profile people, but I shouldn't profile people because I don't know if they're flexing. What's your profile?
Maverick.
Maverick. Okay. Okay. So
And
we're in the social. You and I are both social profiles. So's Chris. Chris is the captain.
oh, that makes sense. I can see that.
Yep.
Yeah, we actually in my Vistage group, on our like our nameplates or whatever by our seat, we actually have all of our PI results so that you can look around the table and see who everybody is.
We do the same thing.
Yeah, it's a really
Yep.
cool thing, and it's actually helpful. And then once a year, they'll do like a review of, hey, this is everybody's, don't forget, this is everybody's profile and this is everybody's chart.
Yep.
And yeah, so it is very useful, and it is an incredible tool.
It is. It's powerful, and it starts the whole self-awareness journey for all of us,
Absolutely.
right? Um,
Oh, very cool. It's been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest today. Thank you so much, Anna. This has been wonderful. Um, if folks if folks have questions about any of your wide variety of groups, if they have questions about PI, if they want to know how to find a new job, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is probably the easiest. It's easiest. It's Anna Quinn. It's Anna with one N. A lot of people misspell it ANNA, but it's one N, ANA, Quinn. And I'm happy to help, in any way. We're here to serve others. That's really the goal.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And
Well,
actually, I believe I'm booked to speak to your group next year, so
yes, you are. Yes,
I'm
you
super
are.
excited
Looking
about
forward to
that.
it.
Thank you for that, and it's been
Yep.
wonderful having you as a guest.
Thank you.
You and your husband actually are really wonderful, and I'm glad to know you.
Well, thanks for having it. This was an honor. So I appreciate you reaching out to us. And I can't wait to have you here next year.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
All righty. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Chairwaves. You can subscribe to our feed using Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your platform of choice. You can also visit chairwaves.com for more information. Chairwaves is hosted and produced by me, Eric Wolf, and to connect with me, you can visit my website at ewolf.live. That's EWOLF.live. And a disclaimer, while I love Vistage and CEO peer groups, this podcast is not owned by or affiliated with Vistage or any other peer organization. Thanks for listening.